Some of my better human story is to fill in some spaces that are empty in the secular worldview of our times. But there's one really major place where what my better human story calls for is a different way of looking at the issue of human sinfulness than the one we see on the pages of the Bible, particularly the New Testament, but even the Old Testament. I mean, it's just in the very first books that uh, our introduction to our species is that they get one basic instruction from God, and very shortly thereafter they violate that instruction and are driven out of Eden. I think that's a great story, but it has it's led to things like the concept of original sin. Whereas my better human story says that the ugliness we see in human history is not human nature writ large. The Bible doesn't just do it there, and it it, it has also the image of the flood that God sends to Earth to kill everybody, except for this one family that will be the remnant from which the whole will regrow. But before the flood comes, we hear that God is so disgusted with human beings who are behaving so badly. He actually repents of having created this creature that he created on this special time. It's the one part of the creation that's gone haywire, and he's enraged with the sinfulness of human beings. But I say that what we see there in the world that emerged with civilization wasn't a function of human nature. It was a function of a destructive dynamic that got inevitably unleashed when a creature did the unprecedented thing we had done. After 3.5 billion years of life evolving, here comes a creature that takes this unprecedented step of extricating itself from the niche in which it had evolved biologically, which is to say, leaving the natural order into going into disorder by inventing its own way of life. This is something new, and it created uh, something, a kind of disorder called anarchy, which I demonstrate, I think, inevitably leads to a selection for the ways of power, independently of the inherent nature of the creature that invented civilization. So that's important for us to know that the ugliness that we see in the world around us is the result of our having done something inventive because we were the smartest things to have arrived in terms of creative intelligence. But we unwittingly unleashed a social evolutionary force that it makes it inevitable that what I'm calling the spirit of the gangster will have a disproportionate say in shaping how the human world will be. So we look around ourselves, and like the people who wrote the Bible, we're inclined to think, oh well, this ugliness, this tyranny, this enslavement, this cruelty, this greed, this lust for power, all this stuff that we see so prominent in the world, we think is a picture of us in our being who human beings are. But I think I can demonstrate quite otherwise that any creature on any planet, anywhere in the cosmos that takes that step, that invents its own way of life and extricates itself from the niche in which it evolved biologically, which means extricates itself from a rather intricate natural order and goes into a disorder. It's anarchy, and that leads to warlords getting a disproportionate say. We can see that human sin is the wrong thing to pin the rap on. Focusing on human sin sort of is a downer and brings us down and burdens us. But if we can understand the nature of the forces that we've unleashed and see that they made it inevitable that at least in the early millennia or whatever of civilization, this destructive force that we inevitably would unleash has been making things a lot more broken and making us look a lot worse and making us a lot more broken. It's not because of some original sin. It's because of the inevitable consequences of doing something that had never happened in the history of life before. If you're interested in seeing whether I can prove this, which is what I claim that I more or less can do, though I realize prove maybe too strong a word. I wrestle with other things to articulate the right level of claim, compellingly argue, make it seem like there's no way out but to reach the conclusion that indeed the ugliness we see in human nature in human history is human nature writ large. That we are better creatures than we have thought ourselves to be, and it is not really appropriate for us to get taught things like human depravity and original sin, because that's not how to explain the riddle of evil and the brokenness we see in the world around us. Thank you.